Hey everyone, so as you can see, I am building a new house right now. Now, some of my friends might say, you're building a new house, you're never going to finish it, and you didn't finish the last house that you were working on, and they're probably right. But anyways, when I was building this house, or when I'm not finished yet, and I probably won't again, but it brought me to the idea to make a video of the most frustrating things about basic shapes. If you use basic shapes, I think you will relate to this one. So I listed 10 of them, starting with number 1, and that is the triangle shape having a minimum size of 0.5. This usually happens when you are building a custom wall, so you pick two sides of 0.25 of like the square basic shape, so like you resize it to 0.25, and then on top of that you want to have a triangle because you have a slanted roof. Now the triangle resizes to a minimum of 0.5 in width, which is the exact same width as a wall. So it's always going to pop out a little bit, or you need to find a solution for that so that the color outside doesn't match the color inside and you can paint them separately. Now I think that is due to some restrictions in that shape, and that is actually the minimum that you can go to. Number 2, trying to align something just right. Now if you are making like a shape and you want to have another shape on top of that goes up to the corner, but then it comes out a little bit, it's not that. It's like using the smallest grid so that you can align one basic shape to the other basic shape, but it's always like 1 pixel off. And if you want to get it right, you need to drag it all the way out again, because if you resize it too little, it's gonna cost $0 and then you can't enter it. So you need to move the shape first and then move it back, and it's the whole thing. It's so frustrating. I have given up on some builds because of that, because I'm like, yeah, this is working fine and this looks great, and then I go out of build mode, or like I add some light to the room, and then I see like all the tiny little creases in the walls that I have because I never align it correctly. It's so frustrating. And then number 3, and we have to talk about that as well, is custom everything. There's some people that will not use any item that's in the game anymore, whether it's a couch, a table, a desk, kitchen counters, windows. I mean, windows I kind of get because some builds have very specific windows, but some people have gotten to the point of complaining about plot data, but also not using any of the in-game furniture. And sometimes, and I'm not saying this is every time, but sometimes the furniture that they have created, it does look better than what's in-game sometimes, but most of the times it doesn't look better than what's in-game, and it looks like you just threw a bunch of shapes together just to have something custom, just to boast about you making that instead of like using something from the game. And I feel like a lot of players get overwhelmed really fast when they are building because they feel like they need to have the same standard of I need to custom make everything. And that is not the point of basic shapes. Basic shapes are meant to enhance what's already there, basically. So it does make building a lot harder, and I do want to mention that I did create a separate point for that because basic shapes are fun and nice and very customizable, but it does make it harder for a lot of people to get into detailed builds. Then number 4, and that is a very annoying one as well, is dragging, like what I mentioned before, where you are trying to align something and then it's finally aligned and you want to hit the OK button to enter, but you accidentally hit the back button, so your shape completely resets. It's happened, and I feel like for a lot of people it's happened before as well, where that's a really frustrating thing because you just got it right and then you hit that button and it's like, oh yeah, I messed up here. Then my next point is building on top of a basic shape and having to delete the bottom basic shape because you realize you made a tiny mistake with it. For example, you are building a custom bookshelf and you put all of it on a shape because you want to be able to copy it or move it later, but then you realize that the shape you have created at the bottom actually pokes through the wall behind it. So then you either have to move everything that's on top of it, or you have to start all over because you placed everything on that one basic shape. And that brings me to my next point, and that is not a building on top of another basic shape. For example, you are making a custom table that has 4 legs. Place the 4 legs just on the ground because you didn't want any bulk. And on top of that, for the basic shape, you dragged it up with Transform Plus, and then you played around a little bit. But you realize that the table doesn't really match that that area anymore, so you'll move it to your dining room. That means you have to pick up the legs of the table, you have to pick up the table itself, you have to like align that again and then drag that up again. So there's a con to connecting everything to one basic shape, and then there's a con to not connecting everything to a basic shape as well. So it's really up to you which one of the two evils you rather have. Then next is inverted material. For example, you are building a slanted roof, spent a lot of time on it, and then when you're done, you start painting it with a material like the roof shingles, and you realize you messed up the rotation and everything you're doing is in the wrong rotation, or even a closet or whatever that has like a rotation to it, I guess. But you have to start over if that happens and resize your basic shape to be the other way around, just to have the material right. And then next is plot data and placement limit. Now personally, I've never ran into any type of limit, only with trees, because I did that lemon tree money income thing. But when it comes to plot data and the placement limit, there is a placement limit on basic shapes, because once you resize them, they become a custom shape. It takes up more data than just the square. So we had to limit it. I don't know what the exact limit is, but it's a lot. And then you have plot data as well. And some of the most detailed builders do sometimes run into an issue where they are building, only have the outside of their house done, and they're already at the plot limit. Now, I personally never ran into that issue, and I have a hard time getting to it even with a full build, but I do understand if you make every single thing custom that you can run into it quickly. And then next up is making a dormer. For example, as you can see with this house that I'm building right now, I'm making a dormer to it, and then I had to connect like the side pieces, and it's still not finished, so it still looks unfinished as well. But I had such a struggle with that because I wanted to have room underneath so that I could still build underneath that as well. So I didn't want to close the areas next to it off. So I had to put an inverted triangle on like a normal triangle, and then again and again and again until I had closed all of the gaps in the wall. And then I had to do the same thing again for the other side because I don't want the same material outside as I do inside. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people have ran into that issue as well. And then number 10 is finding out that there is a glitching material after you are finished. Now this usually happens when you put like shelves in a bookshelf, or you're building a custom countertop and then you add material to it at the end, which I do a lot. I like just build something and then I struggle with colors and material a lot, so I tend to keep that for last. And then you realize that you use a material that is glitched, so either you have to redo that entire thing or you have to choose another material for everything in your house because it starts glitching out. Usually what I do is like I cover it up with a placemat or something, or I put another basic shape on top of it and then resize that a little bit to like go over the glitched material. But that's not the best solution. That's just a lazy solution, I guess. But anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know your most frustrating things when you are building down below in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button and please subscribe.